up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Meaning of Podcast. I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And this is the podcast where we talk about your favorite directors and the deeper meaning within their films. And once again, we're doing a non-director episode, kind of like last week where we did a TV episode. This time, we're doing an entire studio.
Yeah.
This was suggested by Mr. RB3,
Well,
so hopefully he's ready for this.
Well, this is the 1 year anniversary in which we did the Pixar Studios
Oh, that's
episode.
totally right. That's great.
Yeah, so...
we are doing this episode, guys, on Illumination Entertainment. They are coming off a huge box office weekend for their new Grinch movie that came out over the weekend and made a ton of money. So this is a relevant topic. It's a big studio. It has lots of movies. So please continue listening and tune in.
They have a lot of meaning, too.
We'll see about that. We'll get to that later in the episode. But before we do that, guys, we're going to do what we do every week, which is read your comments from last week. And last week, we did it on House of Cards. Once again, guys, leave us your comments because that is the best way to connect to us. That is the best way to leave your feedback, leave your thoughts, leave your opinions, whatever it is that you want to do. We know we have a few listeners on the iTunes feed, but come on over to YouTube and share some love. Go over to the Collider Podcast YouTube channel. And give us a little comment. Give us a little like.
Tell us what you think. Well, I know some people I just got Twitter back too, by the way. So I'm back on Twitter, people.
Oh yeah, fresh. I forgot to introduce. I was gonna say that and I forgot. But
yeah, no. I
RB3's back.
I saw some people tweeting and they were wondering if we had like an email address or something, right? Like
oh yeah, Raul.
Yeah, Raul, my man. Yeah,
he's like one of our
regulars.
Yeah, one of the people who actually.
That's what's up, man. Raul. Salute
I
to you,
swear,
man.
I think we have like a good 10 people who listen every week.
listen every week.
Listen every week. Yeah. And then sometimes that 10 turns to 5. They listen every other week.
Nah, but hey, man, Raul.
But this episode is going to be a great one. Illumination Entertainment. They make, I'm sure, regardless of your opinions on all their films, I'm sure you've seen at least one of them. So make sure and tune in throughout the rest of the episode, which is going to be a lot of fun. But before we do that, let's go to the comments from last week where we did House of Cards, fresh off the new season 6, which I finished, and it was bad.
Yeah, okay.
It was
so
real
now
bad.
You're on my train. Now you're on my train.
That finale, man. Ooh.
Now you're on my train.
I was like, what is going on? They just gave it to like a 15-year-old director or something.
Well, see, that's what's funny. Well, I don't want to say that. Robin Wright directed the last episode. So
did she?
Much respect to her.
I can tell.
Oh, no. Hey, man, I'm not going to disrespect Robin Wright like that.
I'm playing.
You know, it's funny, too. Cade was also in the same boat that I think you were, where he was watching the first 6 or 7 episodes and was like, okay, it's not bad, but I don't know where it's going. And then he saw the last episode and it's like, all right, this season.
Yeah, the first 4 were kind of weird, but they weren't bad. The last 4, because it was 8, right? 8
yeah,
episodes
8, yeah.
Yeah, the last 4, ooh. I was like, it keeps getting more and more downhill to the end where I was like, the only cool part, what I told you, no, I won't spoil it. There's something cool that happens, and I texted you about it, and I was like, that's cool. Everything else, not cool.
Yeah.
Jonathan Peck says, love you guys. For TV, how about the meaning of Mr. Robot?
Oh, yes.
And for directors and genres like Robert Zemeckis, Peter Jackson, and Christmas movies. Interesting. Yeah, Zemeckis, Jackson. I'm sure we'll get to them eventually.
Zemeckis is good.
I don't know about Christmas movies because I've seen maybe like 2.
Yeah,
I'm not a holiday movies guy.
I'm not a mainstream. I'm not like a, I guess for lack of better terms, I'm not a white Christmas movie guy. You know, like
but you've seen the Chris Brown Christmas movie?
I've seen the Chris Brown ones. I've seen all the ones that feature some Negroes.
Yeah,
those are the ones that my mom was always used to watch.
What was it called? Was it called Last Christmas? Or?
Last Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that song, man. That song's great.
Or it was this Christmas.
This Christmas. Okay.
And because he did the song, he's like, "And this Christmas." Gotcha. Way off time. I'm sorry, everybody.
Close to Chris Brown.
Yeah, but Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot is something we definitely have to do.
Yeah, because I'm a big fan of it. You're not as much, but
I am, dude. I was the one who told you about this show. Damn it.
No, you did.
A buddy of mine is the one who told me about this show, and then I started watching it and telling other people about the show. I love the first 2 seasons.
First episode.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay, then you beat me. Fine, you win, RB3.
I was gonna say, like, you told me about it. You told me about Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. That's what I'm referencing.
Yeah.
But I love Mr. Robot. I just haven't seen the last season. That's all.
Oh, you haven't even. So,
No.
but you dislike season 2 so much you didn't watch season 3?
I thought it was okay. I thought season 2 was okay, but I'm a streaming guy.
Yeah.
And if I don't find it on streaming, and if it's not easy to see, I'm gonna probably lose track of it. I'll eventually binge it, but you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's USA, right?
USA.
Like, how do you even watch that? Like, is it on?
I think it's on Amazon Prime. I mean,
I don't have Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what kills me.
Yeah, I'll give you my login, bro. You can check that out.
There you go. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Starting tonight.
Season 3 is way better. I mean, I like season 2 a lot, but season 3 is way better.
I like Joey Badass. I like him.
Yeah,
I think
yeah. His character has a great arc in the next season.
We'll eventually get to Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
Athena Jackson says, "What? Rami Malek is super good looking. During his interviews, there are so many thirsty comments. It's crazy. Also, first time watching, and I really enjoyed how you guys related to the show to real life. We are currently living in we are currently learning about the Red Scare in my American history class, and you're absolutely right about politicians using fear to get votes. It's crazy how little certain things have changed. Yeah, it's crazy how we keep reliving the same thing over and over again. I was rewatching, I saw the interview that Scott Mans had with Adam Driver, and they kind of talked about it. They talked about BlackKklansman, because it's crazy how Spike Lee made a very bold choice. A buddy of mine and I had a conversation about it before we saw another movie over the weekend, because he didn't like that choice at the end of the movie. I don't want to spoil it, but how they kind of relate
I think it's a spoiler.
It's not really a spoiler, but it's basically Spike Lee telling you, like, hey, everything you just saw for the last 2.5 hours is kind of happening again in a certain way. And it's just a different branding.
He did the same thing in Malcolm X too, though. He did the same thing.
He did do the same thing
with the opening with the Rodney King.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I like when Spike Lee uses that device personally. But I think it's very impactful when directors kind of relate the real life material with with real life material in the present with whatever subject matter they're talking about in the past.
Well, what's interesting is the fact that to me, what I got from BlackKklansman, and the reason why I enjoyed it so much, because again, it's one of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, mine too.
If not my favorite, because I still think Hereditary is the most impactful. You still haven't seen it. I still think Hereditary is the most impactful movie I've ever seen. It's maybe not. I'm not going to see it again and be like, "Yo, this movie's dope," but it's still like, "Oh my god, what did I just watch? This is crazy." But BlackKklansman, what it does so well is the fact that it frames certain things and it tells you certain things from the past, and it makes you feel like we keep reliving the same moments over and over again, and we just don't realize it. And it's the idea of like I love the dancing scene. Like, I love that scene, not just because I was dancing and vibing with it, but just to make you realize, like, this is the 1970s, fam. Like, this was so long ago where freaking this kind of music was playing, and now just to show you the time jump that we have lived, and yet that word "yet" still comes up because we relive the same thing again. Yeah. Because this was way back in, you're like, oh, that stuff is dead and over with. We're super progressive now. And it's like, not really. We're slightly more, but not a lot more. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I don't know. I really love that. How did we get to Spike Lee? And
I brought it up.
What was the original comment?
It said, I love how you talk about how politicians...
right.
So it's relevant.
Yeah, no, but yeah,
I'm on
exactly.
track. Or
no. But I was wondering because when you're talking about the fear and how that's a recurring cycle, that also makes me think of another recent movie. Even though it's more of a sci-fi thing, but Overlord is the whole idea.
You saw it?
Yeah, I saw Overlord.
Okay, great.
It was pretty good.
You saw Overlord? Did you see Gorilla in Spider's Web?
No, I didn't see that one.
Okay.
I'm a little salty that Fincher's not involved.
Bro, I have some hot thoughts, bro. Hot takes. Thoughts. But I just want to call it hot thoughts so bad.
Hot thoughts, I love it. No, but but Overlord made me think of how it was almost like how is merging the genre of sci-fi, like zombie movies, because zombie movies are kind of an allegory for fear of the other, and it's merging that with like Nazis, and I think it's just really funny how they kind of play on that.
It's one of the coolest genre mixings I've seen in a while. That's the best part of the movie. The best part of the movie is that it's the World War II zombie Nazi American mixed with like a monster movie, mixed with like a sci-fi horror movie, mixed with like a freaking maze at Universal Halloween Horror Nights. Yeah. Like, all that stuff mixed together makes like the vibe is the coolest part of the movie.
Yeah. I wish they would have had more zombies. I was a little disappointed by the lack of zombies, but everything else I thought it was really good war movie more than I think
those first 15 minutes were dope. Yeah. I was like, yo, this is dope. And shout out to some homies that were in it too. Grey Worm's in it. Yo, Grey Worm
Who's
from
Grey
Game
Worm?
of Thrones.
I don't know.
He's Dawson. He's like, I'm gonna write a book about my mama.
Really? Oh, that's guy.
Yeah. So you know what happens to him later.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my homie Fitz, who plays Leopold Fitzgerald. I'm sorry. And Agents of Shield is in it too. He plays the homie who comes back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That scene was crazy, bro.
Yeah,
that scene's wild.
That whole movie is wild, man.
That's true.
It's funny. It's a fun movie.
My hot thought to finish it up is I saw 2 movies this weekend. I saw Overlord and Girl in the Spider's Web.
Yes.
I like Girl in the Spider's Web more.
Really?
Yep. And everyone is like, Overlord's best movie of the year. And I'm like, it was fun. Girl in the Spider's Web is better.
What was the what's the reviews on?
It's like 56% on Rotten Tomatoes, something like that. Yeah.
And that's with Cara Foy, directed by Fede Alvarez.
The best part of the movie is the directing. Claire Foy is probably the weakest part of the. I love Claire Foy. Obviously, I've talked about The Crown a million times.
Yeah.
But Rooney Mara just gave something. She was just like something so crazy and cool and different that it kind of drew you towards her. Versus Claire Foy, kind of just it feels a little bit by the numbers, and that's probably the weakest part of the movie. But the story and the arcs and the action and the directing, the cinematography is gangster. It's so good. The cinematography is so freaking good.
Would you say it's better than the way Fincher did it, or?
It's very different. It's very like people are the biggest complaint that people have about Girl in the Spider's Web is that it's a Bond action movie. It's not a spy thriller espionage type movie. It's more of like an action spy movie. And people didn't like, and they're like, oh, since when do hackers have powers? And I'm like, since it was cool. I think if it works, it works. Like, I never get why people complain about certain things being unrealistic or like, for me, it's like, if it's entertaining and if it's cool, I don't care if she like clicks some computers and then a door opens. It's like, ooh, that's fake. And I'm like, it's a movie.
Yes, a movie.
Who cares? It's cool. I don't care. How many Bond movies do you see and that happens? But since it's the dragon tattoo story, everyone's like, oh, it has to be grounded and gritty. Is it serious?
Is it consistent with the first movie though, or
no? It's not.
No,
that's it's very much like its own thing.
All right.
Yeah, it's very separate.
That's what turns me off, man. Because I love The Girl with the Dragon. I mean, like, not just love it. I love that movie. You know what I mean? And of course, I've seen the Swedish.
Oh, you've seen the Swedish ones? Okay.
Trilogy too.
With Numi, I love Numi.
Numi Rapace.
I love her,
beautiful
man.
woman.
She's great.
Yeah, and I love those movies too. But this, I guess, The Spider's Web isn't even based on like the actual book. Like, it was written after the guy author died.
It's more Fede's writing than anything else.
Interesting.
So this it's like it lives and dies by Fede.
Oh, okay. So it's more of just this own like kind of thing then.
Correct. I mean, it's based on The Girl in the Spider's Web, but it's based on versus like an actual
adaptation
where they're
like
taking
Finch's
the
version.
book.
Yeah. Okay.
But I thought it was dope. I thought it was cool. I thought Lakeith was dope, like he is in everything. He's
in that movie?
He's in the movie, yeah.
Oh, dope.
He's in it for a short time, but he's still like the best part of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But I just really enjoyed the movie, and that's my hot take. Because everyone hated it, bro. People were like trashing it. I was like, damn, like even like YouTube review channels were hating it, and then Rotten Tomatoes critics were hating it. And I was like, yo, this is a cool movie, and it made no money.
Really?
It made $7 million over the weekend.
Well, I mean, you confused people when you had Rooney Mara play it, so many years ago, and that one, it wasn't a hit, but people knew about it.
They made a little bit of money.
Yeah, I made a little bit of money, but now it's the whole rebrand. I don't even know why they went forward with this to begin with, honestly.
I think they just liked the IP so much, and they wanted to follow up, and I think they were really excited about Fede. I think they were like, yo, this guy is legit, and guess what? He is legit.
He's legit.
Yeah, I think the studio was like, yo, this Fede is a master. And he is. That's the best part of the movie is the directing. It's the best part of the movie. And obviously the cinematography. That DP, whoever he is, had a blast shooting this movie. Really? It's one of the most fun shot sequences I've seen in a movie in a long time, man. I mean, there's a scene where a person is like getting up after being shaken up, and the camera just does like a Dutch, and then it comes back and it does another Dutch, and then it's just like it's doing this thing, and it feels like the Inception scene, but by just the camera movements, and they're just having fun. Like, you can tell that this is like, you can see what the camera is doing, so it's not anything like groundbreaking, because it's just a guy with a camera going like this, but it's still fun. Like you enjoy what's happening, and it makes you feel like you're a part of the movie. And obviously the colors, the lighting is so cool. I don't know. There's a scene where certain guys are wearing masks, and it's in a dark, like almost like a haunted house, and it's all dark and foggy, and these guys wear masks, and the mask has like a little light on it, and it's like a red light, so they look like monsters. It's so cool. It's one of the coolest looking films of the year. Like, really? That's my biggest. Just go see it for the DP if you don't want to see it for the story.
Okay, I might check that one out then, man. I mean, even though I'm still a little salty, but I still, I still support this.
To Latino directors, Fede Alvarez. Shout out to
I'll support that.
Claire Foy. And Lakeith, man. Lakeith is dope in the movie. He's so cool.
Claire Foy better in First Man or Girl with the Spider Web?
That's a tough one. I would say First Man by a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
But she's still better in The Crown by far. She's still an amazing actress, and she's still transforming completely. It's just like going from Rooney Mara. It's just hard because Rooney Mara is my favorite actress. Like literally my favorite actress.
Yeah.
So it's hard to follow that up because she's such a different Lisbeth. So yeah, go see it. Those are our. Oh no.
One more.
Yaju Prime says, wow, I disagree with almost everything you guys said.
Thank you.
Rocky IV is underrated, if anything.
Wait, that's what the comments
He's talking about Rocky IV, bro.
I was going to say, we talked about House of Cards.
Everything you said, and especially Rocky IV. Yeah, there was another comment that... I'm kind of just skipping over that. There's another comment that got mad at me for talking about Trump, but whatever.
Oh, we could go into that. I mean...
No, I don't want... It's too long, but it's basically saying, like, Trump's not anti-immigrant. He has like immigrant family and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, immigrant white people. Like he even said it. He's like, why can't we get more people from Norway? They're cool, and we get people from these trash countries. What did he say? Trash shithole countries.
Yeah.
Like what did he say? Like Nigeria or something?
Well, just African countries.
Yeah, African countries. And I was like, that. Of course, he likes white immigrants.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people from Norway and Sweden. Like those people are cool. Those are cool immigrants.
Yeah.
But all the brown ones.
Which I think is funny because if you look at the people who come from Norway, from Sweden, their political system is all free healthcare.
That's literally what the movie freaking Girl in the Spider's Web.
Yeah.
They literally talk about how Sweden and I mean they do it in another report too that I saw, but Sweden is like super freaking liberal.
Yeah.
Super liberal.
Yeah.
They're one of the most progressive countries. They took in more immigrants than any other country over the past 5 years, and they have the most immigrant per capita spacing wise as far as how many people live in the country and how many immigrants live in the country, and it's the highest in Sweden.
Wow.
Because they're
liberals, man.
Because they're very progressive. They're extremely progressive, and so is Norway
and
too.
It's working. Their economy's booming. Their people are happy.
I just met a girl from Norway. She was staying here for a few months.
She have accent?
She had an accent and everything. Yeah.
Oh shit. Super
piercing white blue eyes and just like the whitest person I've ever seen. And I was like, yo, Norway's dope. But yeah. That's kind of a funny comment to say too, but it's true. It's very true.
Now, thank you for disagreeing on Rocky IV.
Now let's get into Illumination Entertainment.
Illumination.
This movie studio started out with 2010's Despicable Me.
Yes, sir.
Which kicked it all off. Here's the first thing I'll say about this: they make a lot of money. Yeah. They're very successful. Regardless of what people think about their films, it makes money. It keeps people going, considering how the Grinch made so much money over the weekend. Dude, that was a lot of money. Like I was
67 million.
67. That's almost 70 million opening. That's humongous.
Well, you think too, like the Lorax was one of their movies that came out in 2012, opened to $70 million. Was at the time held the biggest opening weekend in March. At the time.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. That's so much money. But here's what I'm going to say. This was suggested by you, obviously, and I want to hear mainly your thoughts. But for me personally, when you see it at face value, it seems that these films are exclusively for children. We're doing a meaning of episode of Illumination Entertainment. Is there even a meaning of RB3? Is there a deeper theme or deeper meanings in these movies?
I don't think you're giving these movies enough credit, man. I think every single one of these movies has a very clear, deeper meaning to some extent. You know, maybe not like deep meaning, but it has a meaning. You know, Despicable Me franchise is all about parentage, adoption. You know, family. kind of universal themes that, you know, kind of resonate in a lot of Pixar movies and a lot of other things. You know, the Lorax is all about environmentalism, you know, preserving the forest, nature, stopping deforestation. What else they got? Minions. I think Minions is all about immigration. You know, I think that movie's all about, you know, I think the movie's specifically designed to kind of comment on like the current state of immigration to some extent too. You know, Sing the movie Sing with the singing animals. That's all about reality starism, fame. You know what I mean? I think they all have something to say, man. And
Okay.
you're laughing.
No, I'm not.
But I'm gonna
not.
prove my points, man.
Ain't nobody watching this, so they can't see my face. They're just listening.
Nah, man.
Okay, all right, I'll take it.
So I think they all have something to say here.
Here's my follow-up question to you.
Yeah.
Kind of not changing the subject, but slightly changing it. How do you review a film that is clearly targeting a much younger demographic than you? Do you judge it based on what you think the child will react to this movie, or do you judge it based on your own personal feelings on this movie? Because I think that's the biggest disconnect when it comes to Illumination, and I'll get to it further on my notes. But for me, it's the concept of 47-year-old men sitting down and watching Minions go da, 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 and just like there's a disconnect versus a child, a 7-year-old's gonna laugh his head off because it's stupid noises, and any stupid noise is gonna make a 7-year-old laugh.
Yeah.
How do you judge a movie like that? How do you review a movie like that?
Well, I mean, I think it just comes down. I mean, you can interpret how a kid will like it all you want or not, but you know, you're not a kid if you're, you know, I guess reviewing a movie. So I say just take it at whatever value you take whatever movie at, you know, because to me, I try and look at everything, you know, as kind of evenly as possible, if that makes sense. You know, like I'm not gonna, you know, I think to me the biggest problem in movie reviewing and movie score, and you know, I think grading things on a scale is kind of like not cool to me. You know what I mean? Like I hate how people are less harsh on a Star Wars movie than they would be on like a Luc Besson movie, for example, or a lot of people are a lot more critical, let's say, of like a darker DC movie than a lighthearted Marvel movie, because the Marvel movie is for kids, is making them laugh, you know, where I think you could find a pretty good amount of value on both of these properties to some extent. And to me, it's like I try and grade everything as holistically as possible. Now, when it comes to Illumination stuff, is that a little more difficult because most of it's targeted towards kids? Yes. But I still think the first Despicable Me, and I think the second one too, has a lot of things that adults could clamor onto as well. And I think it's just whatever you find as a personal, you know, connection is where you have to run with.
I feel like I'm opening Pandora's box by even suggesting these kind of comments, because just the idea of films in general that get judged differently, like what you're saying right now about that, is so interesting to me, because I personally feel like there's also a version of that, which is A Wrinkle in Time. Like a lot of people were like, yo, this movie's dope. And I was like, no, it's not. We saw it. And it's like, it's not.
It wasn't that bad.
It was. Don't take it back, RB3. You were on my side,
well,
bro.
I didn't say it was like
you didn't
that
like
bad.
the movie at all.
Well, I
either.
didn't like it.
Bro,
I didn't like it.
Come on, man. We reviewed the movie together. Don't take it back.
Okay, I'm not taking it back.
Stick with your original opinion, man.
No, I'm sticking with my opinion. I don't think it's like the worst movie ever made. Like that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
like,
I never said that. I just thought it wasn't good.
Yeah,
it just wasn't good.
No, it's not good. No, it's not. It's not good.
Yeah,
no.
but I don't know,
because you think it got favorable reviews because
of Ava DuVernay.
Yeah,
and how Ava DuVernay represents so much more than just the film. She represents like change. She represents women directing. She represents women of color. She represents power. Like she represents a lot. So the fact that a lot of critics might have been like, you know, might have been a little more hesitant, but they weren't. They were very honest with their opinions. But there's also Pandora's box to that, because I've been hearing certain stuff about Roma, which I haven't even seen yet. Most people haven't seen yet. But the fact that a lot of critics are like, I don't get it. It's just brown people. And I'm like, well, that's not fair. Like, you know, maybe just look at it from their shoes, because a lot of people maybe are not, they say that they don't connect to the movie.
Is that the criticism of it?
Yeah, I've heard that a few. I've heard that on this freaking channel.
Wait. See, I think that's the problem, you know? Like, I don't think relating to a movie...
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? I agree with you, but a lot of people, literal people outside this door right now who are probably hearing me, we're talking about that. I was listening to For Your Consideration. I guess I'll call people out. I don't care. For Your Consideration, they were talking about Roma. Jeff Snyder and Scott Mance were talking about how they were like, and Perry was too, how they was like, I didn't really connect. I don't get it. Like, I don't really connect to their story, and I don't really connect to what's going on. And a lot of critics were saying that, and I was like, I didn't know people were judging Roma like that. Like, that's not how you should, just because he's like a 42-year-old white guy reviewing a movie. I don't know how old they are, but it's like, that's not fair. Like, you know, am I right or am I right? There's certain ways where it's like, just because the story is about a Muslim family or an African family or a Latino family, like, you shouldn't just base it on your own opinions, but at the same time, you kind of should. What's the balance there?
Yeah, I mean, your perspective is always going to play a part into it, I think, to some extent. For me, watching foreign cinema, for me, that my realization of not being able to relate necessarily to the culture or to what I'm watching on screen, I kind of realized very early on, like, that's not a good way to look at foreign films in particular, right? Because especially with those movies, you know, this is a whole different country, a whole different language, with Roma in black and white. So I think the movie's almost designed for people not to relate to it. But it is, I mean, to some extent, you're right, though. I mean, you do have to incorporate your own perspective into it. I probably like Black Panther a lot more than a lot of people do because I'm black. So, I mean, I can't really help that, you know? But I also think that outside of it being a Marvel movie, I think is a very smart espionage film, a very smart comic book movie in general. I think is a very smart political tale about like the rise and fall of an empire and then rise again. You know, I think it's just as good of a movie as any other big blockbuster movie that goes on to win a bunch of Oscars, in my opinion. So,
sure.
Then again, I might be looking at it from tilted lenses,
from a biased perspective.
Yeah,
and you could acknowledge that. Is that possible?
I mean, I can acknowledge it, but I think to some extent, like, I think
regardless of the fact
that I'm black, I think I could still make a sizable argument for why I think this movie is just as good as. I mean, I said it before on the show. I think it's just as good as something like Gladiator, just as good as something like. Maybe not as good as Gravity, but, you know.
I thought you were going to say Avengers Infinity War. It's definitely not as good as Infinity War.
It's better. Yeah, it's better than Avengers Infinity War. You are right, Ace.
But what I'm trying to get to is kind of going back to my subject, is how do you do that with children's movies? Because personally, for me, I'm unable to do it, to be completely honest. If I see poop jokes and fart jokes and kids are like having a ball, they're like, oh my God, this is the best movie ever. And I'm sitting there thinking, my God, when is this going to end? Shoot me.
Yo, I don't really see these kind of movies. I don't see Illumination movies like really in theaters, except for like Despicable Me 1 and 2, because I was like of age during that time, you know. But like
the Target demo.
I was in Target demo. But like beyond that, like I wouldn't watch any of these because I just feel weird being like an old guy in like a movie theater.
Well, here's my counter to you. Let's get into the comparison. The fact that.
But if it's a Pixar movie, it's different.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Pixar has reached an audience that goes beyond their target demographic. So my thing is, now there's certain movie audiences from Pixar and Disney. I'll put both of them together because Disney does too, where adults get together and go to a midnight premiere for a children's movie, a Pixar, Disney movie.
I even think DreamWorks to some extent too.
I remember going to the 10 o'clock premiere of Zootopia, which is a Disney movie, with my friends. And my friends were, I forget what theater it was, but it serves alcohol. My friends were like sipping wine and watching Zootopia, for crying out loud. And I literally, like, in my head, I was kind of thinking of it. Like, I looked around and I looked at the audience and I was like, we're all like over 20 years old, and most of the audience is like sipping wine or some sort of drink. Yeah. And we're watching a freaking kids movie, a G-rated kids movie, but it's not weird in any way. And now,
well, I think it should be weird.
And now I go to see Pixar and Disney movies with my mom every year. Like I'm probably gonna go see Ralph Breaks the Internet with my mom. Like, there you go. So I counter you by saying that doesn't really happen with Illumination Pictures. You don't really see a 27-year-old me go by myself or with my friends to go see Minions or to go see Despicable Me 3 or to go see Grinchmas. Like, we're probably not going to do that. We're going to do it with Coco. We're going to do it with Zootopia, but we're not going to do that with any Illumination movie. Why is that? Why is it the fact that Pixar and Disney can have both audiences, but for some reason, Illumination doesn't have that same connection?
Well, Pixar movies don't go for the cheap joke. You know what I mean? Like, for the most part, if you take a Pixar script and make it into a live action movie, it's pretty much like a drama, like to some extent, right? And I mean, Pixar just has it a lot. You know, Pixar's whole idea, you know, their whole structure is based around making stories that are more than just for kids, right? Whereas I feel like Illumination, they're specifically targeting kids in their demographic, but I think, you know, I think if you're targeting kids, that doesn't mean like you don't have anything that, you know, I think if you're targeting kids, you don't really have, that doesn't mean you don't have anything to say necessarily, or you don't have anything of quality. It just means that you might be dumbing down the humor to some extent, you know, or you might be you're not trying to reach for some sort of, I feel like to some extent, the Illumination movies are reaching for quality, but they're reaching for quality from a different demographic, whereas the Pixar movies are intended for adults. I feel like Pixar movies are almost intended for adults more than kids to some extent, because if you watch a movie like if you watch a movie like Inside Out, like and try to show that to a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid, they'll have no idea what they're looking at. You know, I remember when I was a kid and I watched Up, and Up as a kid, like as a kid, that is not like a fun movie, you know. Like, that is not a fun movie. But then as you grow to appreciate the story, and in general, all Pixar movies are told from a adult perspective to begin with. Toy Story is told from like the cowboy Woody perspective. Yes, is that not accurate?
Yeah, no, but I'm saying not all of them. But Riley and Inside Out, you just named.
But I mean, her emotions are adults. You know what I mean? And Joy is supposed to be portrayed as an adult. Same thing with the focal character, and I think the focal character in all their movies are adults for the most part. Maybe the
adults
good. I didn't see The Good Dinosaur, but all of it is about reliving the past.
Yeah,
all of
reliving your childhood,
reliving your childhood, or reliving
your dreams,
or all of the Pixar movies are about reflection, and I think that's why they connect so heavily to adults too. Whereas Illumination movies are not about that. They're just there's different subject matter. And
do you think they should be, or do you think what they're doing now is making money and they should just keep doing what they're doing?
I mean, they're making money. I mean, I don't know what critically like those movies are looking like.
I'll bring it up in a minute.
Yeah,
I have them all.
You have them all. Yeah,
okay, I have them all, bro.
You got a case on me right now.
I got a case, bro.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I don't know particularly like. If they should do what they're making money. I mean,
yeah, they should keep doing what they're doing.
Do what they're doing, but then, you know, it doesn't hurt to make better movies too. I mean, if they want to, but
you just said it right there. We can end the podcast with that. Make better movies. But I think, quote by RB3.
I think everybody can make better movies, though. I think everybody can make better movies.
I guess, but movies. I mean, that's such a broad perspective. Versus, I feel like if I'm a writer or a director or an animator in Illumination Entertainment, and obviously I'm generalizing, I am kind of going in my thought process thinking, what would a kid want to see? What would a kid want to laugh at? That's kind of the thought process versus what you said before with Pixar is just, let's just make a good movie. Like that, the difference between let's make a kid laugh versus let's make a good movie. There's a difference between those two.
True, but I think trying to make a kid laugh doesn't cheapen what was surrounding it. What
the purpose of a movie is.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's my final point. You know, and we'll stop after this and we'll go through the movies.
Yeah.
Do you think a children's animated movie has a responsibility to deliver a cohesive, positive message? Something that the kids can kind of go out with a bang and hang on to and say, yeah, that animated movie was good because it had a positive message. So throughout all the poop jokes and all the stupidity, there's a positive message at the end. Or in Pixar, throughout all the good stuff, there's a positive message that kind of comes full circle. I remember me growing up and thinking of what my parents were thinking of watching the movie. And as they were watching the movie, they were always thinking of that in mind. They were purposely avoiding these silly animated movies and making me watch movies that had like super positive messages. That's the thought process of my parents taking me to see these animated movies, and me growing up with Disney, Aladdin, Mulan, Tarzan, all movies that have some sort of relaying message that my parents can have a checklist and just say, check. My kids can watch this because it's not just silly jokes. It actually has a good message. That's why Disney was like my mom's go-to thing, and that's why my mom and I have that connection with Disney, because we still watch Disney movies together every year. It's because she would always find that in all these Disney movies, they always came back to something good. A good message is what my mom would say. And that's the thing that she can kind of rest her hat on and say, there's plenty of poop jokes, but at the end, there's gonna be something good at the end.
Right.
Should a kids movie have that?
Or should it
just be entertaining?
I have two answers.
Because it could just be entertaining.
Well, I have two answers. For one, do I think a kids movie has a responsibility to do that? No, I don't think any movie has a responsibility to.
But it's different when it's kids movie though, because you're
Yeah,
right. Any movie that doesn't have a responsibility to do anything, you're right. It can make you feel awful. Like Hereditary made me feel awful, and I still think it's the best movie of the year.
Right.
But that's an R-rated horror movie. This is a kids movie. We're talking about a different brain structure as far as demographic goes. Their brains aren't fully developed yet. So it's. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
it's different.
But I also think that, like, I think to some extent, I'm going to give two contradictory answers though. So this is why. So let me say this: I don't think a movie should have any sort of responsibility, but I prefer,
including kids movies.
Yes, but I prefer if a kids movie has a positive message. Now, I'm saying that because I think that you can have a kids movie that addresses not something so positive and also be very impactful. I think immediately to the movie Bridge of Terabithia, which came out in like 2009. And when I was a kid, that movie was 2007. But it was with Josh Hutcherson, and that movie is all about death. The main character dies like halfway through the movie or whatever, and then the rest of the movie is. And it's a Disney movie. It's a Disney kids movie that they ran ads for all over Disney Channel. But when you watch the movie, it's really a movie about death and dealing with grief and dealing with that shit.
Yeah.
And I think that that's not a quote unquote positive message, but I think that it does educate to some extent, right? I think it does add a perspective to something. So I don't want to. So for me to say that I think that all kids movies should be chained down to some sort of responsibility, no. But I do prefer if a kids movie does have some sort of positive message or some sort of message in general, because I think that I prefer that. But I'm not going to say that I'm holding a kids movie to that. But I prefer it because I think that kids should watch something for some substance.
Well, here's my counter to what you said, because I specifically worded my question a certain way. Children's animated movies.
Animated movies?
That's not Bridge. That's not A Monster Calls. That's not the Wild Things Are.
I'll give you another one. I'm
talking about animated movies, because animated dumbs down the demo. Like kids, like those movies that you were talking about can be like slightly older, but I'm talking animated movies means like you tiny, bro. Like you can be a little kid and watch these animated movies.
Well, if we're talking about like things for like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds,
6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, like little kids.
Well, no, I would also go back to movies like The Black Cauldron or Treasure Island, that are Disney movies that are not
but
so.
But Treasure Island is PG.
I mean,
that's already telling the parents.
It's animated, but it's also targeted to kids. It was targeted to kids too, though.
It's true. Right? It is, but I'm saying, fine. I'll put my final stipulation. G.
G-rate,
because that's PG, man. Like even I remember when that movie was coming out, and I remember my parents actually being like, "Oh, should we take him to see this Treasure Planet?" Like for real, and I was like, "It's PG," but even that PG put it in my parents' head. Wait a minute, something's off here. Like they even thought of that. Like obviously not all parents are like that. There's parents that take their kids to see Deadpool and they're like 4.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have that connection to the MPAA, but my parents do. And they were very specific as what movies they were letting me see or taking me to see.
Right.
So G-rated. G-rated means
little kids. I still
animated G-rated movies.
I mean, I still don't think that I don't really think that matters. I mean, I don't want to see an animated movie have nothing. Like, I don't want to see an animated movie have just bubblegum nothingness in it.
Are there animated movies that have bubblegum nothingness to it?
I think there's plenty of those.
Are they called Illumination Entertainment?
I do not think so. I do not think so. And
I was going to say there are some people who think that, think that Illumination Entertainment movies are simply bubblegum nothing, make kids laugh as many times as you can, and then make them walk out the theater kind of movies.
And they're not.
Okay.
They're not.
Here's my final thing by kind of countering what you're saying is that you famously had a hot thought on Zootopia, specifically mentioning how it was even more dangerous what they were doing in the movie because it was targeted towards kids.
Yeah.
So there is a responsibility for children, you're saying.
There's a responsibility. I also think that my problem is not with Zootopia as a film.
I'm grilling you, bro.
No. But these are good questions because
I'm calling you out. Yeah, I'm saying if there is there a responsibility or is there not a responsibility? Which one is it?
Well, I think there's a responsibility for race. Yes, I think there's a responsibility for race, religion, and when I say responsibility with care. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Have a clear message. You know, if you're going to have a message, have a clear one. Zootopia is not clear with his messaging. It's saying that what the movie is basically saying is that if you think if you believe in racism, then you're wrong, but you're also kind of right to some extent, because if you're pitting predators and prey against each other, that's factual biological differences, which is the founder and fuel for racism. So it's not having a clear message in what it's saying.
Even though it's a fantastical universe and it's not real?
Yes.
Okay.
And because
there's a lot of films that do that, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say right now, I mean, obviously everyone thinks of Bright, but the reason why Bright is so problematic isn't because of David Ayer and Will Smith and Max Landis. It's because of Lord of the freaking Rings. I'm saying it right now. Every elf is like this white, glorious, long-haired, beautiful creature.
Yeah.
And all the orcs and the different people live underground, and they like the dirt, and they're grimy, and they're uneducated, and they talk funny.
Right.
That's some real racist type shit, bro.
See, I don't understand is that because I think the biggest problem with Zootopia is that it has this message, it has this pseudo anti-racism message, but then it's not clear about his messaging. It could lean both ways either way. If a racist white supremacist took their kid to watch Zootopia,
it's a perfect justification.
It's a perfect justification for
it's like,
believe that these black people are savages.
I'm a beautiful lion,
yes,
and he's just some weird ugly dog.
Yes.
I get it, Daddy. I'm supposed to like the dog, but they're dogs, and I'm a lion.
Right.
That's real problematic.
At least with
I still love Zootopia,
but at least with Bright, it's like we're adults, like it's R-rated,
sure.
like an adult can know, like.
But the reason why I call out Bright is because I was thinking about this over the weekend, because I think I saw someone, I think it was someone retweeted a quote about.
I just got on Twitter, man.
Someone you actually like, Drew McWeeny.
Yeah.
Was calling someone out because someone was saying, just a super hyper racist person was talking about how there was an article saying that the new Lord of the Rings show, is it a Lord of the Rings show? Yeah, Lord of the Rings show is going to have black elves. And then the person was like, this is ridiculous. Why does it have to be black elves? Cultural blah, blah, blah. This is stupid. And someone answered and they said, well, yeah, there should be black elves because we didn't see any black elves in the movie. You're suggesting that the orcs are the black people. And then the person responded and was like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. The orcs are the blacks and they're working under... Like, there is some real deep racist shit with that type of stuff. And it's obviously it's fantasy, but it's suggesting that they're a different race, but they're just different than we are. They're cool and we respect them, but they're just dumber. That kind of mentality that racists actually have in the real world in America that we live in today is dangerous to make that into a fantasy.
Yeah.
Which is what they do, and which is why Bright got a lot of shit.
Yeah, which is, you know, if you're going to give Bright shit, I think you're right. You have to give Lord of the Rings shit. You have to give everything shit. But I think more importantly, gives Utopia shit because it's talking to children and children can learn. So that's my thing. It's, if a movie's gonna have a message, have a clear message, and it could be positive, it could be negative. I don't care, but have something to say. Now when you're talking about movies that have nothing to say, then I don't think that's a good. I mean, kids could watch whatever they want to watch, but and again, I don't want to put any like holds or restraints on any movie whatsoever. But if it's literally just like Teletubbies running across the screen, then sure, it might be entertaining for kids, but like I don't think that's necessarily substantive entertainment.
Well, here's what leads right into our conversation about these actual films: is what's literally staring at me on your shirt, RB3,
Minions.
and that's a minion.
Hey.
So if minions are supposed to represent Latino Mexicans, they're dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
They're stupid. They can't talk. They're just handymen. Is that what Minions is trying to say about us?
No,
bro?
I don't think that's directly what Minions is trying
You
to
said
say.
it was about immigration.
I do think it's about. I think the movie's about immigration.
But why do they got to be dumb people that talking gibberish?
Well, that's very true. I mean, that's
I'm
a very
calling
true.
you out right
that's a
away.
very
Why
true
does
issue.
Steve Carell's character, the brainy scientist, and the minions are his handiwork people,
Well,
working on
minions were
literally wearing like mechanic overhaul vests,
Well-
representing like the stereotype Latino handyman, workman, the garbage cleaner, the freaking staff cleaner, the people who works on your cars.
You're making a very compelling point.
Hey man, I'm telling you right now, why do they gotta be stupid little yellow people who talk in gibberish bullshit and who talk funny and make fart jokes and I don't know. To me, the Minions are the most ridiculous, stupid children's property in the 21st century. Well, that's how much I hate the Minions. Like I hate the Minions, bro.
Okay.
I really do.
I hear you, man.
I do, man.
Hey, I hear you, man. Hey, listen.
Because I think it represents everything that's wrong with children's entertainment. Just dumbing down a race of people, a cultural race of people, making them seem as stupid as possible and making them a punchline for a joke. I literally had a friend come up to me and ask me if the Minions were actually speaking Spanish. I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, I thought they were Latinos.
You gotta be
I thought they were
smarter than
speaking
that,
Spanish. And I was like, I know, obviously it was a stupid question. I'll blast him right now. But at the same time, it made me think, oh, if there's someone that's really, 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 really white, they might actually think, oh, they're black, they're Latin people. They're brown people. Look at him. Look at this guy. And it's like, if that's what they're telling people, like my friend who clearly doesn't know that many Latinos, thinks those are Latinos, you don't see the issue with that?
Well, yes. I think there's an issue with that, but I will say I do want to say I don't think that's the intent that they were originally going for.
I'm saying you show this to my homie who lives in freaking South Carolina, and this is what they think of Latinos.
Well, the original
and they think they're speaking Spanish.
Well, the original reason why Minions were created was because the first Despicable Me had such a low budget that they were originally supposed to be people, but they couldn't afford to animate full people, so they animated short yellow people. So that was the original intent for the Minions. Now, in terms of what the Minions ended up becoming, now I think the whole mythology of them being like, I think almost to some extent, I think is less of a Latino like analogy.
You said it was about immigration, bro.
Well, I think it's about immigration, but I think also to some extent it's about I don't want to say slavery per se, but it's about fucking having slaves. Like, I don't know what else I was about to say.
It's about and smart white rich people taking a race of people that they feel are less than they are, inferior, and using them as labor to work on their intelligent projects as handyman.
Well, the reason I compared slavery a little bit more is because I don't know if you actually saw the Minions movie, but part of the mythology of the Minions is that they're the first people, or the first at least like people like things on Earth or whatever, right? So to me, I likened it to like how how everybody originated from Africa, right? How Africans were kind of the origin points, but then there were never because right off the back they were enslaved and or given, or I guess I should say programmed to have a master. They've always resided in some sort of master. So that's why. And when they go to like 1968 or whatever in the movie, and then they're looking for a supervillain to have to be their like main villain or whatever, or to be their
leader
or whatever. Yeah. They come to America to do that. So it's to some extent it's about immigration, but almost to some extent it's about being a species, being a race that was there first, that should ideally be the primal the standard, but being enslaved because of colonialism and because of
But the reason why they're enslaved is because they want to be enslaved and because they're looking for a master to have dominion over them because they're inferior brains.
Now, but do you if we're comparing minions to people, what's to stop? Why are we stopping the comparisons at people? Are they animals? Maybe they're animals. Maybe they are.
They're clearly not animals, though. I mean, you can tell they're a race of beings.
They don't speak any language besides minion language to themselves.
Spanish, to my friend.
Besides Spanish, but but the animal comparison. I mean, I think we could almost think of them almost to some extent with the animal comparison because all of Illumination's animations is all about animals, right? To some extent.
You're changing the shit though, man.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I'm giving multiple meanings. This is the meaning of podcast, Ace. Am I not supposed to give multiple interpretations? But I think,
but they can't be animals and have an immigration status to them.
Well, okay, I'm flipping the argument though. So what if I'm not flipping the argument.
You know what's funny? I don't even care.
But these are good questions.
I hate the minions. I really do. Yeah. That's real. But as far as me being a fan, I'm not offended by it.
No. But what
I just think that the kind of entertainment that they provide for children is bottom of the barrel type humor.
Well, I'm just trying to dissect. Do you because you think the intent is? Well, I don't think the intent is necessarily about fully immigration. I think it's about a lot of things.
No, but I clearly do feel like their language is imitating some sort of weird Spanish. That is regardless of how dumb my friend may be.
Yeah.
That the fact that they're going, oh yeah, no, acá, ven, what's that? Like it sounds like a Latino guy going, oh yeah, ven pa acá, güey, no me traigo. Like it sounds like a freaking Spanish. It sounds like Spanish. It's clearly supposed to imitate some sort of weird Spanish language.
I get that.
Or the Spanish accent, kind of like the penguins from what is it, Happy Feet? Or what is that?
Madagascar.
Madagascar. Like,
yeah.
No, the penguins that are Latino. What movie is that? I think it's not Happy Feet. It's you know what I'm talking about, right? The Latino penguins who are like, yo, what up, fool?
Oh yeah, that's Happy Feet. Yeah, that's Happy Feet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Happy Feet. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't be like, those guys are Italians or Russians. Like they're clearly supposed to be Mexican.
Right.
Kind of like what I'm trying to say about the minions. It's like.
Right.
That's clearly what they're going for.
Right. Well,
and it's the stereotype that Spanish sounds funny too.
Well, do you think, these movies
I've heard before.
But these movies are incredibly popular in Latin American countries though too.
Yeah.
So do you think this movie is giving of course,
I think these movies are popular regardless of where the country is, man. This movie's huge in China.
But do you think the subtext applies to even something that's more closely Latin than
Yeah, because humor translates regardless, man. Because humor is, if you're showing dumb humor to any country, that's why these movies make so much money. It's because it's dumb humor. It really is. Like it's fart jokes. It's he hit a wall, he fell, something crashed into him. It's just the most bottom of the barrel type humor that translates to any language, any culture, anywhere. And that's why this movie made $1.1 billion. Minions.
That's funny.
That's huge,
That's crazy.
man. And that proves that the fact that they don't speak a real language and that they use bottom of the barrel type humor can translate really well. And that's why these kinds of movies make so much money.
Right.
I'm just saying that it's the lowest form of entertainment. It provides. It really is. It provides. It provides a representation of stupidity to children, and it kind of provides them like an outlet to be even more stupid. I don't know. For me, this is just showing kids, look, stupid shit. You do stupid shit now. And it's like, nah, man, give my kids some good. I wouldn't show my kids Minions.
Yeah,
that's my personal take.
Minions is not like the deep. Did you watch Minions though?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
and
like the actual movie.
Oh yeah, I saw half of it.
Yeah, it's not like a terrible movie. Like it's not, but okay, but like.
But my thing is this is my personal take now because you said it doesn't matter. I do think it matters because I think there is a form of entertainment where kids are obsessed with repetition, right? That's how they learn in school. That's how the world is made of with children and their brains. Their brains are learned to repetition. And what these kinds of movies provide are repetition through stupidity, repetition through falling down humor, poop humor, dumb noises humor, where that just making dumb, like, trust me, as someone who has like 5 nieces and nephews and is like live with them, bro, they just hear dumb noises and they start laughing and they're laughing really hard and then they start making the dumb noises. It's teaching children that stupidity is cool and it's funny.
But you don't think these movies have something other to say other than that, or
If it is, it's lost with that. What, if I have a really tiny, small little apple and then I just dump it in shit, it's gonna still taste like shit, bro.
what? Hey, I think of it more as taking an apple and putting in caramel, sugarcoating,
all that caramel is actual shit.
Nah, I don't know about actual shit, but it's sugarcoating the pill. I think it's sugarcoating the pill. That's how I see it. Like how the whole idea.
I think Disney does that.
You think Disney? I mean, of course Disney does that, but like, do you think Disney doesn't? Disney doesn't. They sugarcoat the pill, but they don't make it. The pill is not like anything other than like what Disney usually says. Pixar aside, if we're talking about strictly Disney,
well, I mean,
are you talking about like Pixar? Because
no,
I feel like all Disney movies are saying the same thing.
Let's go.
I think to some extent,
any good animated movie, in my opinion, has dumb humor.
Yeah,
dumb humor you can find in a Disney movie, in a Pixar movie, in a Sony animation movie. What are those movies called? Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Lego movie. Sony Animation. Yeah, Warner's. Yeah,
Lego movie. All those movies have silly humor, but the silly humor is played in a certain way that can be easily digestible. It's not a loud noise or a fall or a poop joke. It's not the quick. It's like a camera shot that repeats in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs when they see the giant meatball in space. Right. It's a joke that comes full circle. It's a gesture that they do throughout the movie. Those are the kinds of silly humor. It's silly. It's super. I can acknowledge how silly it is. What's the Lego movie? Lego movie is it's all silly jokes, but it's still so freaking funny and it's so entertaining for kids and for adults, and it doesn't need to do the repetitions of minions bumping each other in the head.
Well, I mean, I think Lego movie does have a lot of like repetitive dumb things for kids, though, right?
Absolutely, but I'm saying it's not the stereotypical tropes.
Because you don't like the humor in it, is what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying I don't like the humor. Yeah. The humor works. I mean, the kids are going to laugh. I'm saying the humor is bottom of the barrel humor. It's literally a black and white kind of humor. What are those guys called? The Three Stooges.
Yeah,
that's the kind of humor it is. That's all it is. Like every single movie is the Three Stooges. Versus Lego movie can have humor on Batman having a dark past, or Chris Pratt having no friends, or little cats saying funny noises. Like those are silly. It's all dumb, but it's different varieties of a different type of humor versus Three Stooges. Someone gets hits in the head. Someone falls down. The water explodes. Now he hits his other friend. Now he's making loud noises. Now he's making funny faces. That kind of humor.
I mean, I think I'm disconnecting a little bit with you because I just don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily.
I don't think there's. Okay, fine. I am saying there is something wrong with it. I'm saying what my initial question was.
Yeah,
if movies have a certain responsibility towards the minds of children. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's all a movie is.
Well, I think
am I going to show that to my kids,
I think they're more than that, Ace. I think you're really shortchanging Illumination, man.
Tell me about...
have you watched Despicable... You watched Despicable Me, right? And you don't even like that one.
I don't like Despicable Me.
Which was nominated for Best Animated Feature when it came out, by the way.
I didn't like it. Despicable Me, Despicable Me 2, Despicable Me 3, and Minions. Let's talk about those first.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it that these franchises trying to say?
Well, I think they're very strong on family. I think they're very strong family movies. I think in terms of particularly with adoption, right? And adoption is something that we don't see a lot portrayed in any animated, in most animated films.
Toy Story?
But they're not adopted. Andy's not. Is Andy adopted?
The three little aliens that the potatoes adopt, bruh.
Oh, right. Come on. I mean...
Those are their kids, though.
Yeah, they're kids. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, come on now.
I know it's a side story, but it's still there.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of having because I know a lot of people who come from adopted families and from shelter homes and things like that, and how their troubled past kind of riddles their relationship with their new parents, right? And I think that's exactly what we see in this movie, and how these like kind of misbehaved kids who nobody else wants. And how this sense of abandonment kind of fuels what they feel, and how having somebody in their life like Gru, having somebody who is like irresponsible, who is evil, who's literally evil, having to cope with being a parent with them forces change on both ends, and I think that's on both the kids and the adult of Gru. Now, is it silly? Yes. Are the minions farting all the time? Sure, but I think at the end of the day, the relationship between father and daughters is something that. It's something that's, for one, universal, and for two, I think very impactful in depicting and depicting a relationship with a family that you have to kind of become accustomed to, something that you weren't born, a family that you weren't born into initially. And I think Despicable Me 2 kind of
You're a minion
re-ups
now?
on that. Yeah, I'm a minion. No, banana. But I think Despicable Me 2 kind of doubles up on that idea, and kind of and re-ups on that. Now, Despicable Me 3, and I'll be honest, I haven't really seen Despicable Me 3 fully 100% through.
Ooh, don't get me started on that movie.
But there's,
Jesus Christ,
as the in-law story, as the twin brother or whatever.
Yep.
I thought that shit was funny.
Oh man, it's bad.
Well, hey man, Hitchcock used repetition too, man. Doubles. That was a common thing in Hitchcock.
You're comparing Despicable Me to Hitchcock.
Comparing Despicable Me 3 to Hitchcock, baby. And then Minions, like I said, I think Minions could say a lot of things. Now, I was semi like on the defensive when I was saying they're kind of, they kind of represent animals, but I think to some extent there is a representation of like domestication in there, right? Now, whether or not that's like actual literal slavery, like I kind of alluded to before, or if it's low-paying workers like migrants, or if it's like actual literal animals, because I just think animals, because like literally every other movie they make outside of Despicable Me franchise is about animals. But it all kind of ties into the central idea of who we are. What's your identity? What is someone's identity? And with the Minions, sure, they're characters that don't speak English, but they have to find something within themselves, right? And does it is the ending now with the ending, they do ultimately are not like fully developed characters, and I think that's kind of the biggest problem with the Minions. I'd say is that like the movie doesn't have an actual resolution per se, but it does. I think it portrays a very specific type of companionship between the people. I guess. I'm not. You saying I'm reaching? Are you saying I'm reaching?
Bro, you're pulling a Michael Jordan Space Jam type reach,
nah,
bro.
Man, that's not
you're straight
reach,
up
bro.
reaching, bro.
I'm not reaching, bro. I'm not reaching. No,
you got that MJ face.
Nah.
Reaching so
that's
hard.
Not reach. It's not reach. What I'm saying is, I think it really does speak to some level of companionship, either to someone's to a dog or his master, or to in a more cynical perspective, a worker and his a low-paid worker / slave to his master, and how that relationship kind of ultimately, because they end up tearing apart towards the end, and Minions go on their own and find their own thing to do. So, like I said, it doesn't really have a full resolution, which I think is a problem, but I think it does. I think to some extent it does say something about being independent and being your own.
What do you think this franchise, the Despicable Me / Minions franchise, has to say about how the fact that the most popular movie in their franchise is The Minions, the one that features the least amount of actual dialogue, the less amount of like freaking logical moves, and the less amount of the use of one's brain. RB3.
Yeah, man, you're really shitting on these movies,
yeah,
man. Jesus
bro, I'm
Christ.
going hard on them, bro. I'm
Wow.
grilling them, man. I'm straight up having a cookout, man. I'm having
Man,
a
Jesus
freaking
Christ.
Hawaiian freaking deep fried barbecue cookout, man. I'm burying this shit in the sand.
Did the Minion touch you the wrong way, Ace, when you were a kid? No, I'm just kidding.
I really do feel like I think it says a lot about our world and our culture. The fact that I was talking to my mom about this. The fact that stupidity is always going to win. People love stupid shit, man. People buy stupid shit. People love to laugh at stupid shit. Like, that's this type of stuff that, for some reason, everyone can kind of get behind. Why do you think that is?
It's universal, and I think, and no pun intended, but I think the Minions, like the fact that minions don't speak an actual language, I think makes it more relatable. Like anybody could pick up a Minions doll or toy.
So you don't
and
see this
speak the same thing.
as problematic in any way? You don't think it's like
well, no, I mean
bringing down the animated feature to like a level that's kind of like Michael Bay level?
Well, like Illumination is not the only one making animated movies, you know. Like
no, I'm saying making animated movies that are like this.
I mean, like they're just. I mean, they target different demographic. I'm not gonna like for me. I'm not gonna get mad at Disney Channel for making Phineas and Ferb. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be mad at Illumination for making dumb humor. What I would get mad at Illumination for is and I think they are victim to this a lot of times, is they will have a premise that's really great and have a really strong idea behind it, but don't really follow through with a complete resolution and make it and their films are pretty surface level and pretty clear about what they're about. But I wish they had a full arc to what they're about to some extent, because I think it's particularly with me that movie is Sing, right? When you look at something like Sing, that movie has so much potential to be about so much more than it's actually about, but it doesn't really follow through on a lot of the bigger ideas that it presents. But I don't think that's a criticism for it being a kids movie or for it having dumb humor. It's just more of a criticism on the movie. But I guess that's kind of my point about this whole conversation is the fact that movies like Sing that have a lot more potential choose to be just like a fun musical experience for kids, so they can have like a fun laughing time. I don't think something being silly and having dumb jokes is mutually exclusive from having substance.
I just named a ton of movies that I thought were silly and had dumb jokes. Like Lego Movie, like other movies like that Clouded with the Chance Meatballs is super dumb. Yeah. But it's still like, it comes full circle to one of the deepest types of conversations they have in the movie. And that's between the relationship between the father and the son. We talked about it on our freaking Phil Lord and Chris Miller podcast.
Right.
So yeah, I think there is, you're right, it doesn't have to be, but I feel like there are certain choices that directors and creators can make to say, we did our job. We made him laugh. Let's finish the movie. Like, that's kind of my issue, is the fact that when you stop trying to go a little bit further than what you can go just because they're kids, they're going to laugh anyways. It's like, well, you could still do something a little deeper, like even if it's like an inch deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they make the movies that they intend to. I think they make the movies that they always intended to make. There's not as much, I feel like, at least with, Illumination, I feel like, or I think with any animation or child animated thing, you are appealing to kids and you are making kids related content, but at the same time, the broader audience of the adults are going to be paying tickets for this as well. And I think where Illumination benefits from that is the fact that the comedy in and of itself, outside of the poop jokes and outside of the fart jokes, I think they do have some pretty funny moments in some of these movies. And I think that's why, to some extent, parents don't mind taking their kids to see Minions or don't mind taking their kids to see Despicable Me or Sing. Because they're laughing too. So I think that, I think for me, the problem with, these movies are not necessarily that the comedy is bad or that the comedy is fart related or this and that. I think it just leans too far into the conventions of comedy of trying to go for the laugh instead of going for a little bit of substance. But I can make the same criticism, and I did make the same exact criticism when we were talking about Trainwreck a couple weeks ago. With Judd Apatow, right? on the Judd Apatow episode. That's a movie, that's an R-rated comedy, but I feel like that movie doesn't have much substance outside of trying to go for the laugh. And that's the same thing at Illumination. But I'm not gonna, but.
So you agree with me?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree to some extent, but I think, I agree with you in a different way. I think, I mean, at least the way I'm reading it, I think you're criticizing it more because of the farce and the poops. I don't necessarily criticize it because of that.
No, I'm criticizing it because that's all they choose to be.
Right.
That's it.
Well, I don't think that's all they choose to be.
Okay.
I think they do choose other things, and I think a lot of movies do have other quality aspects in them outside of the poops and the farts.
Which one do you think has the one that stands out the most? That you're like, oh, that was good. Like,
well, I mean,
it comes to food.
I mean, everybody, I mean, the first Despicable Me, of course, is like
the best one.
Do you think that's but that's like when you make that's what everybody says. Like when you make your first movie is going to be your best because you spent your entire life making it.
What about Secret Life of Pets?
I think Secret Life of Pets. I mean, that's more of like a Toy Story like ripoff, pretty much. But I think Sing does have a lot more in it than what we're giving credit to. And I think Sing had
that's
pretty
Matthew McConaughey one.
Matthew McConaughey one, and it's about these animals who can enter into a singing contest and make it, towards the end or whatever. But I thought the most fascinating part is that they showed different animals from different backgrounds. So they showed like they showed one of the, I can't remember if it was like a rhino or a gorilla. It was one of them, but it was like but that whole it was auditioning to sing, but it had a whole family of like bank robbers or whatever, or robbers or whatever, and it was like how he's trying to break out of his path of his predetermined destiny and join and be a singer and and live his dream. Same thing with the other characters in the films. I think that is a very powerful message, and that is something that is a good commentary on the contemporary space, a good commentary for kids in general, to know that you have to break out of your own identity for it to be yourself. But then it like I said, it dilutes it a little bit towards the end, and I wish they would have focused a little more on the personal aspects between the characters or whatever. But
I think throughout this entire episode, because I'm closing up right now, just so you know.
Wait. Well, I'm sorry.
I think what we
I
learned,
gotta get it before we close up.
I'm not closing up. I'm just gonna say I think what we learned so far is that I'm just very, very picky when it comes to animated movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
I'm picky, bro.
Which Illumination films have you like seen like fully? Like
I've seen Despicable Me 2, Despicable Me, Minions. I've seen part of Sing because it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Despicable Me 3.
Despicable Me 3? Okay, I haven't seen Despicable Me 3. Or not fully. What
was the last thing you wanted to say before that? Because I was just saying that I just feel like it all comes back to my first question that I asked you. The responsibility of challenging the mind of children, minds that are literally developing, is a little bit more. I think there should be a little bit more responsibility. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That it shouldn't just be about the silly humor. Have all the silly humor you want. That's not necessarily my issue. My issue is when you make it all silly humor. Yeah. And then it concludes with nothing. With, like I said before, imitation of stupidity. That's it. That's just my issue.
Well, I think these movies, to me, these movies do have more.
Well, what was the last thing you wanted to say?
Oh well, no. I was going to ask because I think I was going to ask you which ones had you seen, because I was wondering if you had seen like the Lorax or the outside of the Despicable Me, because the Lorax is very clearly a pro environmental movie, and it's probably that one is probably the most clear in its like messaging. Yeah, it's based on the Dr. Seuss book, for crying out loud. But it's about,
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah. But it's all about preserving the environment. And
Danny
DeVito's in it as he plays the Lorax himself. Zac Efron plays the kid. And it talks about the harms and the effects of deforestation. And I think and I was curious to see if you have seen that one, because I think, at least to some extent, that might adjust your perspective to some extent, maybe.
You told me to check this one out.
Maybe. I mean, if you don't like these movies, you're not going to like this one. Like,
you're like, watch Mr. Robot season 3.
Yeah, let's watch Mr. Robot season 3. But if you're not going to like if you don't like Illumination, you're not going to like this one. But I'm just saying, like, for me, this was, for me, because I think I might have been probably on your train to some extent. I probably would have been against, like, I love the first Despicable Me, but I think if I had seen all the other Illumination movies besides Lorax, besides Sing, I would think it's just dumb, poopy, stupid humor. But I think for me, watching those movies do have some sort of reading that you can, some sort of deeper reading you could take from it. And I think it's not bad, not bad in terms of it, like, it's not the worst kind of way of projecting the humor it's still similar type of humor, but it's not like overbearing in the same way that the Minions are, for example. You know,
I get you.
But I don't know. That's just what I think. But I like the Lorax. I still haven't seen the Grinch.
Yeah, I mean,
Cumberbatch.
let's see. So
I love the original.
The Grinch already came
one.
out. Secret Life of Pets 2 comes out next year.
Yeah,
as well as
Secret Life of Pets is good though.
Minions 2,
not good, but
Minions 2 in 2020 and Sing 2 in
making a Minions
2020.
2.
Yeah.
All right, see, that's where I have a problem. Like, don't continue the Minions franchise. That movie didn't really have an ending. Where are you gonna start it from?
Oh my God! Thank you. Holy crap, bro! I can't stand the Minions, man.
Yeah.
I can't stand them.
Yeah, I just wish they should have gave a little more, a little more umph in it. But also, and also I think I mean, this is more of a conversation about like the whole industry in general, the whole movie industry in general. But these movies have a relatively lower budget than a lot of animated films. Have a relatively
they're I mean, you're right. I shouldn't compare because I have the budgets in front of me right now, but they're compared to Disney.
Compared to Disney, compared to Disney,
Pixar. Pixar spends all their money.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like the Pixar movies spend years and years and years and years,
literally
and
like 7 years,
minimum 7 years, minimum.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's a little bit unfair because these movies clearly they have to be turned around and mandated.
I agree 100% with
quickly.
you. I'm very pro because again I'm an animated fan, right? So I'm very pro other animation studios that are not just Disney. Even though I'm a big Disney fan and that's kind of where my bread and butter is.
Right.
I root for every single animated movie. I root for DreamWorks. I root for Sony. I root for Illumination. I root for these kind of studios because I do want to see some quality ass animation that can actually make a difference when it comes to animated features. Yeah. Make something good, man. Like make something substantial. Make something that everyone can enjoy and put a finger on it and say, yo, that was good. Like that's what the kind of movies that I wish that these animation studios would aim for. And I guess I don't know if they're threatened by Pixar and just saying like, they'll do that type of stuff. We'll do something different. We'll just kind of focus on the potty humor and then call it quits. Yeah. Which is disappointing to me because I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting so hard. I'm hype on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse so hard. Yeah. So hard. And obviously because it's Spider-Man and because it's a Latino Spider-Man. What's up?
Yeah.
Latino Spider-Man.
Yeah. Half black, half Latino. That's what's up. We both represent this movie.
I was going to say, man. Hey. I was going to say. Because when I talked to my homie, he's like, yo, first black Spider-Man. And I'm like, yo, first Latino Spider-Man.
Puerto Rican, right? Puerto Rican?
He's Puerto Rican, yeah. So for me, it's like, I'm going to call him Latino and then black people are going to call him black.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, I'm hype on the first Latino Spider-Man. And I got my mom hype. She loves animated movies, man. I just told you before we went on. I don't know if you heard me. That my mom was talking about Grinch. She was like, "Oh, should I check this one out?" And I told her,
man, so that's
I told her not to. But she loves animated movies, and she really likes those kind of animated movies that break the barrier, that break the border, that break the boundaries of just being silly kids movie and being something a little bit more that can have a little bit more meaning, like Coco. Obviously, we all went nuts with Coco, but Moana. My mom loved Moana. We loved Coco. We love those kind of movies because it's not just because they're Disney. I mean, that's part of it, but it's also because they provide something a little bit more for kids, and so kids can kind of reach something a little bit higher than just if I make funny noises with my mouth, my brother's gonna laugh or my friends are gonna laugh. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. Either way, I texted you beforehand. I told you I was going to go hard. I think I went a little too hard.
I was going to say,
I apologize to everyone who listened all the way through.
Illumination Entertainment, man.
Bro, hire me, Illumination Entertainment.
Yeah, get this guy.
Holla at your boy.
Man. Hey, I still rocking the Minions.
Hey, holla at your boy.
I don't care how racist they are. I'm just kidding. I might not be able to wear the shirt anymore.
I'm going to be working at Illumination Entertainment in 2 weeks.
Hey, bro, you speaking Minion right now, bro. What's happening?
Hey, man, are you saying because I'm Latino, man? Are you what? What'd you say? Either way, catch me at Illumination next week. My new job.
Judd Apatow. I didn't say this before, but like, Judd Apatow.
Instagram.
Yeah, he comments on the Instagram post for ours.
Shout out to you guys, man. The one episode I wasn't on.
The one episode. I don't think you actually watched the episode, but I think Kate posted like video clips.
Remember
from
I
it?
showed you when
Bayona, yeah.
Yeah, he liked our tweet.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I hope he didn't listen.
I hope you didn't listen because I kept calling Jessica Chastain Bryce Dallas
Oh
Howard.
my God.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I kept calling Bryce Dallas Howard Jessica Chastain.
Yeah.
They all look the same.
That
to me,
was
people.
bad. All them redheads look the same.
Yeah, no, I can say that because I'm black. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no.
I think we should stop now.
We should stop there.
Thank you guys for
what an
listening
episode.
all the way through for our episode on Illumination Entertainment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Leave us a comment down below. What is your favorite Illumination Entertainment film? What do you think about kids' movies? Do you think they do have some sort of responsibility for a good message or a positive message? Do you guys enjoy these kinds of movies? What is your favorite animation studio?
And do you think they have a positive message?
Let us know about all that in the comments down below. We will be back next week, and we might have some spells from you.
Whoa, wait a minute.
We might have some crazy hand movements.
Oh, shoot.
We might be talking about another enormous franchise that we haven't talked about yet, and that's coming out with a movie. We're going to be talking about that with a special in-studio guest, maybe.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Maybe we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Either way, it's Leviosa, not Leviosa. Anyways, peace out, guys. I'm Ace.
This is RB3.
And we are peacing out from the Meaning F podcast. Peace out, guys.